Welcome back to the Hard for Life podcast after a very much needed hiatus. I took a break because I'm going through a move from Vancouver Island to Austin, Texas, and also going through a massive overhaul in my business at the same time. And it was so potent for me to get back to editing, specifically this one, because it's hitting right when it needs to. Like, this episode is so aligned with where I'm at in my life right now. It is great medicine for the season that I'm in, which is a season of spiritual, personal, mental, emotional, all of it, winter. And interestingly enough, this intro here is being filmed in the winter. It's December right now. And I'm getting to hear my guest, Brandon Odoshin, talk about the seasons of life. And then when we learn to recognize the season that we're in, it can help us navigate it. And so presently I'm in a death season, but inevitably after every death season is a rebirth. And how vibrantly any of us experience that rebirth after that death really depends on how we approached that season. So having an understanding of these seasons can really help us align with the most potent path. It's about the level of how much we surrender into it, the seeds that we plant while we're going through it, and how we show up for ourselves and for others during these seasons. It's during this season of winter that the rubber hits the road, so to speak, on the level of personal development that we've done. Because you never get to test out these tools really in action unless you're in a shitstorm, unless you're really going through it. And so this episode is extremely valuable for me over and over and over again, because getting to remember through Brandon's expression and experience that he's sharing here reminds me of the tools that I have. And it also reminds me to notice when I am in a winter. And when I'm in a winter, there are ways I can show up that support myself way deeper to allow me to launch into freedom as opposed to staying stuck in bondage. And so I hope you find just as much value in this episode as I am presently, having gotten to listen again and edit it. And so with that, welcome to the next chapter of this season of the Hard for Life podcast. Before we dive into the podcast, first, a word from our sponsor. 1 in 4 men have 0 close friends. And I have been one of those guys, which blew my mind because I'm an entrepreneur, I've run multiple businesses, and I've put in significant work on personal development. I would even consider myself a growth junkie. I chose to focus my time on building my career, cultivating my relationship with my fiance, and all of my overall personal development goals. That meant cultivating close friendships with other men was like 5th on my priority list, meaning it didn't really happen. And why this is important is because as a successful man, you need to have strong masculine relationships that you can rely on when stuff hits the fan. Always taking your stress and your challenges to your woman or bottling it up inside and just repressing it has very negative long-term effects on your business. And we're not alone in this. There are millions of entrepreneurial, high achiever, self-development, growth junkie guys out there that have put in a lot of work on themselves and are now looking to put that work in on cultivating brotherhood. And those men are intentionally seeking those connections in brothership, a community that empowers high-achieving men to overcome isolation and forge authentic brotherhood. So join us to experience a place where we are intentionally cultivating these meaningful relationships and achieving holistic success in every area of our lives. We look forward to seeing you in the group, so join now. So if you would like to join Brothership, you can find a link below in the show notes of this episode of the podcast. And now, back to the show.
You are listening to the Hard for Life podcast with Thomas Scott.
Talk to me about performance under pressure.
I find like a lot of, people have fight, flight, fawn, different responses to what pressure does. And then there's also different type of pressures in people's life. Just like I said, winter comes for everybody. Like, some, even in California, it's still a winter. Their winter might look different. Their winter might be forest fires, you know what I mean? But there's that season for everyone. And what we don't like about winter typically is all the snow and ice and everything like that. It looks like everything's dead, but in reality, that's when the roots of trees go deeper, right? And so it's a perspective shift about what's actually happening when you're in pressure, because it really exposes you to the true level that you've made, like where you're really at as far as all those personal development things we like to talk about. Where am I at really, though? You know what I mean? It's just like the cold plunge. It's like you get to find out really where you're at versus where you think you're at, and then you can deal with reality. It's a beautiful thing. It's not a thing where a lot of times people are like, oh, I'm not as far as I think I am. I'm not as strong as I thought it was. All those different things are actually opportunities to become stronger. They're opportunities to develop even in deeper relationships with yourself and with others. And so the opportunity to be under pressure, and instead of looking at the outside, our five senses, we hear, see, smell, taste, and touch, and reacting to that, it's the opportunity to become present with the pressure and using our inner faculties, our willpower, our perception, our memory, our intuition, perception, imagination, to actually create and respond versus react within that space and grow to the next level, whatever that looks like for you. I love Earl Nightingale's definition of success, the progressive realization of a worthwhile ideal. So, whatever the next level looks like, it's not necessarily the next level of financial success or physical success or relationship success. It really is dependent upon what you've stated as your devotion, as your target. But whatever that looks like, it's going to constantly require, the truest version of yourself to show up.
I relate to all of this really strongly. And one of the things that is coming into my awareness right now is the many times I've folded under pressure and how I've reverted back to like base comforts whenever I have found the pressure to be too much. And I imagine a lot of men experience that. They relate to that. And like even formerly having a porn addiction and things like that, that was an eject from the pressure for me in a lot of ways in life. And I'm curious, how does a man or woman, when they experience pressure beyond what they are used to holding or capable of holding, strong word to use here, but how does someone show up to the pressure in a way that allows them to essentially shift into the new way of being and be able to hold it without folding or ejecting or reverting to some of those baser comforts that we often seek when we fall into that?
I think there's a level of awareness, honestly, because if yours was porn, it's like everybody's got one and it's just different, right? Like for me, I have a name for it. I know, like, oh, it's Little Bill. Like I have a whole name for it. I've almost associated names with parts of my personality. Little Bill is my younger version, because when I was little, I looked just like a Little Bill. It was just like a Bill Cosby cartoon, that big head, and so I see like, oh, this is. Because when it's a lot of pressure for me, I will like have a strong pull, like visceral, to play Pokemon. Like
really,
yeah, like I gotta catch them all. Like it'll be the dominating thought of my mind. Literally, is like I've got to catch them all. I've got to get the cards. I've got to what I mean. It's pulling me into that area, and so but because I'm aware of it, though, it's almost like when you fall asleep and you start to hear that driving on the highway, bump, 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 bump. You know what I mean? It's like you could start to dream that you're in a fight and start to fight within the dream, and you be getting beat up in the dream, or you can even win the dream. But regardless of it, you're interacting with the dream. The thing to do is to feel that bump, 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 and realize like, oh, there's no need for me to play in this dream of winning or losing. I need to actually wake up. This is a sign that I'm falling asleep and grab hold of the wheel and redirect myself. And so I use that to see like, oh, I'm actually slipping into a state of unawareness that I always do when I feel X. Like, okay, this is the state that I'm in. I subtly got into the state. I've settled in some areas of my life in some place very subtly. I didn't notice, but I noticed that I want to play Pokemon so bad, which is associated with Little Bill. And so I'm not in the vibration of Brandon. I'm in this vibration of Little Bill. And let me bring my awareness back up, and then move through those different things. And for me, I'll call it the terror. Typically for me, what comes up when I'm at the terror barrier, what it comes up when I'm stretched beyond my capacity, similar to the state that I'm not that far in, because really these things are so incredible that it's like, it's not something I would want to distract myself from. It's just required more of myself. But when it's like that, I'm at the terror barrier, I know it, like I'm aware of it now. And so anything to do to distract myself, I'm really making a choice, either step back into bondage or I can step forward into freedom. I step back into reasoning with myself as to why it wouldn't work because I didn't have this, or, of course it's going to, I have 5 kids. We just had kids this year, of course you should be tired. Of course you should, take a break. Of course, that's reasoning. Bondage is just completely giving up. Freedom is where I want to be because I know that, because I know the feelings that are coming up for me. And I know that the only way is through. Then I'm just going to continuously take steps with this level of awareness. And suddenly there's a shift. I don't know at what point, but suddenly there's a shift. And it's really just surrendering to the process and knowing that this is a process.
Yeah. This is bringing up so much for me. And I'm very grateful because I'm in it too right now in a big way. And I wonder if in sharing my experience, it can help the listener relate to this process and we go into it a little bit, if that's something you're open to.
Yeah, I'm open to it.
Let's do it. So, for me, it used to be porn and now it's like, I don't have a name for it yet. I love that idea of coming up with a name, like you call it yours Little Bill, but now mine's like, it's just distracting on Instagram, YouTube, podcasts, Twitter, that kind of thing, where like I lie to myself that if I'm scrolling Twitter and following current events, that's somehow improving my life, but I'll get sucked into 2-hour-long rabbit holes around fucking P. Diddy and what's going on with him and all this bullshit. And it does nothing for me to actually accomplish my goals. It does nothing. And I feel like shit afterwards and I know it, but I can't keep myself from doing it. Or at least I haven't figured out the strategy yet. And I also know at the same time, I just completed my most successful client container I ever had.
Congratulations.
I was holding a client. Thank you. I was holding a client at $120,000 a year. And we were so successful. He wants to up that container to $250,000 a year, starting very soon. So I know the pressure of that, like what it's calling me into, what it's asking me to step into, is the thing that I am navigating right now. So what really resonated about what you were sharing is like noticing the speed bump, like those bumps, the bump, bump, and to start to look at where am I falling into unconsciousness? Because all of my dreams and desires and goals are to not only hold him at that, but to hold a bunch of other men at that level. And so I know I can do it because I wouldn't have that desire in my heart if God didn't have that plan for me on a timeline in the future.
Yeah.
So I am capable of that. And it's really this time right now for me to shift into that new timeline to experience that pressure and realize it's an illusion is what I imagine I'm hearing you say. Is like if you sit in it long enough, there's a shift, and that shift really just allows you to see that this was all just not real, because we're infinite at the end of the day. Am I hearing that right? Like what?
Yeah, I believe you digest it and assimilate it in a way that makes sense for you, because what you're saying makes complete sense to me, but in your own words, which is beautiful, because that's a fast level of assimilation, right? But yeah, essentially, yeah, because it's, again, these are just, we're saying the same things, and your clients then doing the same. It's the difference is form. It's not principle. It's just the form of the thing, right? It's just a form. So it's just like when you're in the gym and you're holding the weight, and it's like eventually, if you keep going back and holding the weight, suddenly you'll be able to hold the weight. Like suddenly it'll be light. But now the thing is, you have to continue to progress to higher levels of pressure. But now you know the process too. And so you're still going to get into that place of complete discomfort, but you've been there before, and so it's like you keep going with greater and greater knowledge, the same spot of discomfort that could rattle your brain. This presence under pressure. You're present with, I know where I am. Just like today, when we start this call, it's like, you start this call, I'm going to completely, but I know where I am. It's not like things are happening all over the, it's the storm and it's this and it's that. It's like, no, this is disruption follows intention, right? It's law of polarity. Like, so this is, I know where I am. Whatever, we can move in whatever way. Suddenly it'll shift. It'll be a time where this is happening and I could paint a picture at the same time, because it's just, this is the level of discomfort I'm comfortable in.
Yeah. Well, and I tend to find that the more chaos that a podcast starts with, the more depth the podcast actually has. Because,
Lotus.
Yes. So when we showed up and there was a whole bunch of chaos right at the beginning, I was like, oh, this is going to be a dope one. And so
that's a good way of looking at it.
I'm excited for where this goes. And, the thing that I'm open to seeing if this is a distortion I have, or if this is something that maybe others in my shoes need support with, which is, I've showed up to the pressure in the past and it's been like a quantum leap. And there was a bunch of fucking trauma that came at the same time, because I just plowed through the pressure and like all the fucking wheels were falling off and shit's flying off, and I'm essentially being torn apart to step into that quantum new level of who I'm calling myself to be. And it hurt. It wasn't like, when I got to the other side, it wasn't like, I was like, oh, that was easy. It was like, holy fuck, I don't want to do that again. And there's almost a fear of like stepping up to the quantum uncertainty in a way that's as potent as that. Although I know that's what I need to do and want to do on some level. Yeah. So I'm curious what comes up for you when you hear that.
I mean, that sounds about right to me. I mean, like if you were to climb Mount Everest, I'm sure you're getting up there with some bumps and some bruises and some war stories, some frostbite. I mean, you're not going up there. You're not at the top the same person you were at the bottom. And so if you were to do it to mount that again and again, I mean, this is a reason why, somebody told me like the greatest detriment to major success is minor success. Because it's like,
I feel that right now.
Because it's like, you could do like, oh, I made it. We want to be comfortable. I just don't know if we were born to be comfortable or we were born to do what is in your purpose to do. It's like, we've done something and we've done more than most. So, hey, we're good. And you can kind of bury that still small voice with whatever distractions we choose to, or whatever story we reason with ourselves with it, that's fine. Or we can leave out of here empty with a bunch of bruises. I mean, we aren't our body. We aren't our mind. We have a body. We have a mind. And so we can start to let that take dominion over us, or we can take dominion over it and say, yeah, you got some bumps and some bruises. And actually, my shoulder is broken, but I'm going again, and I'm going again, and I'm going again. Because what I find is, especially those early years before I had any like true solid belief, like when I was just kind of like really learning myself and learning principle, is the thing that really helped me continue to stay on this path wasn't seeing anybody's success. It was seeing people who were successful financially in relationships talk about the bumps and the bruises. It was like, okay, because I'm bruised. So like, okay, this is actually just a part. And I think that's the same if we use the gym again. It's like, like when I see a guy who's like eating a girl, anybody who's like physically fit, a lot of people just look at it like, oh, the muscle and like the showy part. But to me, it's like, man, I know you threw up before. Like, taking it like that, like you've gone beyond, you had to go beyond what you know you could possibly do. And you lose control of your body sometimes. Like that literally happens. And who wants to do that? Who wants to do that in the public? You know, I was doing box jumps the other day and I didn't know if I could do 60 inches. I haven't jumped that high in a long time. And the only way to know is to try. And the only way to try it in the middle of a gym is for people to see me make attempts and fall and not make it. I don't know if I can make it. I don't know how long it's going to take me. And it's just like, I'm already kind of like established in this gym as a fit person. And, you know, all the supplement company, I'm just, do I want to? It's like, so that becomes the question. And now I have to wake up from that's little Bill talk to me. Okay, little Bill, that's quiet. Now, as a grown man, I have to look at this conversation and say, am I about progress or am I about holding a position in people's minds that I don't actually know?
Yeah.
What am I actually here for? And so we do the thing. But you see, it's just like, because that's why I say it's the awareness of, it's really having a heightened level of awareness of what's going on, because we can tell ourselves any story and we can paint a picture of things that aren't actually important and get pulled into that story and vibrationally become that person and start to act like that person and get the same results as that person. And I think that's when I find myself playing Pokemon. I'm like, whoa, how did I get here?
Yeah.
And you find yourself in whatever it is, and the listeners find themselves. But it's not, it's like, that's like the frequency that we tuned into unconsciously. That's all we need to live, you know, with the level of reverence and devotion, moment by moment. I love in the Bible, it says pray unceasingly. That's a level of intentionality. That's a level of walking with awareness.
Yeah. Yeah, when you turn your whole life into a prayer, where every moment is an offering to the divine.
Yeah.
Every moment is... And that's been one method I have found to help me shift out of that negative spiral, is to remember, and sometimes it's hard to remember, that like, well, what is my offering to the divine? What is my offering to life right now in this moment? I'm curious, what drives you to shift out of little Bill? Because I know if I'm feeling in my own space of the death scroll on Twitter, like sometimes I know I'm in it and I can see it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck, I don't care. Just like, I'm going anyways, you know? And so like, what helps you break out of that?
That's just a matter of will, and things like that weaken the will. And I just, for one, I have little Bill, but also I have Bo, right? And Bo is just a complete savage. So it's like two ends of the spectrum, and where I want to be is right in the middle as Brandon, right? Because Bo is like this complete workaholic, like drive, like just crush. There is no real humanity to him, right? And so also have to, because I could use pure will. I have a very, 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 very high threshold for will, and I could use pure will and move past it. And then I'm missing the road. You know, it's like you could be distracting yourself, scrolling through social media, and you're wasting time. But then you could also be in bold level, and then you're like you're climbing ladders that are attached to the wrong buildings.
Yeah,
you're burning relationships. You're not expelling the flowers. You know what I mean? So it's like it really is a matter of like something like the Avatar has control over all these different things: earth, wind, fire. It's like we really have to have a mastery over all of our inner faculties.
Yeah.
To know when it's like memory. Oh, let me remember to be now. Imagination. Let me put an image in a screen of my mind that is more attractive and pull more desire than when I'm looking at through social media. And then they'll use my willpower to hold that so that I could change what's going my state and start to take actions that are in alignment with that. But that, you see how that's such an inner process that it's going to be clunky in the beginning.
Yeah. And then there's this level of trusting the process that we're in and allowing life to unfold and walking that balance, at least for me. And this, again, open to hearing a perspective here that I might not be aware of like, setting intention towards that, surrendering it to the divine, and allowing life to open and unfold as it will, and not trying to control too much. Like, it's like, how do we like hold the steering wheel without holding it real tight, but kind of like a loose grip? And how do you even see when you're holding the steering wheel too tight? You know what I mean?
For sure. I think for me, like that's the main thing about it is we have a body. We gain control over our mind and our body so that we can surrender it. So that would be that. So that to me is the actual ultimate devotion, because you grasp, when you're creating, you have the ability to create an image, and it can be anything. And whatever you do, you'll be able to achieve it. But we also know that anything we achieve typically doesn't have any real value to us until we achieve it. There's only really one thing that we have to. Are we going to be a hostage to our ego or a host to God today? And so that whole mental process is just to be able to surrender to gather our mind and body energetically, and to be able to actually surrender it, which allows space for God to work through us. And then at that point, we're more of the watchers of the unfoldment.
Yeah. Well, and in that field, I have found in being in that field, it allows me to not shame myself for how I've showed up in the past or any of that type of stuff, because the shame actually perpetuates the cycle for me.
Yeah.
Where if I start to like look at how I distracted or showed up or wasn't in my power, it becomes a punishment. And that punishment is something then that also is not productive towards me being in that state of connection with God, with the divine. Yeah,
I know. And that point, it's sneaky, because it's just another ego trick. That's what I mean. It's like the dream. That's exactly what I meant. Is like, if you feel that bump, it's either you're winning in the dream, you're in a fight and you're either winning or you could be losing, but it's still the dream.
Yeah.
So it can be
still
tricky.
Not real.
Yeah, it can be tricky because you're like, oh no, I'm winning. I'm kicking butt here. I'm in a fight. I'm taking blows, but I'm fighting 10 people and I'm winning. It's like, no, it's still a dream. The next step is a full crash, which is typically what some people need. It's either inspiration or desperation. Right bottom is bouncy. You know what I mean? A lot of times it takes that in order to actually fully become present and fully surrender. Like, a lot of times we talk about that as like our surrendering, but I found there was times where I wanted to surrender, but I couldn't. And so it's like really hit rock bottom. And it's like, I have nothing else, but that's all I have now. Like, there is no distraction. Like, it's like so moment by moment that without that, I could just leave here. You know what I mean? So I like what you said. It's like, whatever your process to get there is your process. And, God, everything is used for glory. Everything is used, every part of our story, all the hidden parts is used to meet and help someone that couldn't be helped without whatever you went through. So it's like, wherever we're at is where we're at.
I love that. It's, I don't know. I'm like reminded of how the Native Americans use every single part of the buffalo. God uses every drop of this life experience. And in that way, we can love all of it. There is no need to judge it negatively or positively.
Yeah.
It's just perfect in how it's expressed. And then we can extend that love to every single human being on the planet and bless their path, whether it's bless a serial killer or bless a Elon Musk or bless Trump, Kamala, Biden, all people doing all things. We can actually extend that out and recognize that all of it is perfect exactly as it is. And in doing so, I say this from time to time on the podcast, but I imagine that is how we actually create peace in the whole world, is by creating that peace within ourselves to stop judging it.
I agree 100%.
And in doing so, I'm like coming full circle on this whole thing for myself right now, is like the recognition that that's part of the game, is just learning to accept wherever we're at with love, because that allows us to accept everything else. And it's actually more valuable to honor the path of acceptance than the path of achieving. Like when we're here to just start to bring in this level of deep acceptance of our lives, of the people around us, of the people in the world, that's actually a bigger contribution in my perspective to the evolution of this planet and the impact on this planet than me being really rich, like making a lot of money. That money can be beneficial, but if it's not attached to a level of deep self-awareness and deep interconnectedness with all that's happening and acceptance of all that's happening, it's the same ego game when it's applied in this like fight. Like you said, the fight itself is the dream, like fighting against anything. So did I lose you? Am I still with you? Like how's this landing?
Yeah, no, I'm in the 100% agreement. The only thing that I would say is, how is it not achievement? Because you mentioned that the acceptance is even greater than achievement. How I look at it is, the acceptance is achievement. Like that, like what would be more than of an achievement than that? Because it's like you're truly that's Christ consciousness. Like you see Christ, you don't see this. You literally don't even look at form at that point. Like you see Christ in everything. Everything's healed. Like your mind becomes the light of your awareness. Literally, is the redeemer of everyone that it falls upon. What bigger achievement could it possibly be than that? Like, and how would that not equal success when, especially when financial success is such a simple formula? It's the need for what you do, your ability to do it, and the difficulty there is in replacing you. There's not many people who've ever walked the earth who've been able to hold that level of awareness. So it's irreplaceable, but at the same time, it duplicates. So it's like, it is achievement, but unless we're using the terms of achievement from I guess it's just our definitions. And that's the thing about language is it's clumsy and it migrates. Words migrate all the time.
I could not have said that better myself, so thank you. That was really beautiful. And it's my prayer and intention that those who hear this podcast are able to start to experience that level of acceptance, that level of achievement. I love the word that you use for it. It's like, it's such a more, I don't even have a word for it. The type of goal that it is. It's essentially the Western or Christian, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's like the word for enlightenment. Like when you achieve that Christ consciousness, that's, in my perspective, just the same as Buddhist enlightenment through the Christian lens, which I was raised in the Christian lens. I love the Christian lens. It's beautiful to me, just as all of the other traditions are. And I love how you said it, because I haven't heard it shared in that way. And that's very expansive. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
One of the things that we've talked about prior to this podcast, and even I've noticed you mention it a couple times on the podcast, are some of the things that I grew up with from like the 90s and 2000s of like Pokemon, Dragon Ball Z. We talked about Lion King. You have a deep connection, Avatar, to these like really archetypal shows and games. And we talked previously about how you've been able to draw correlations between like Lion King and masculine ideas of healthy kings and things like that, like the Three Crowns. I'd love to open up some of these fields with you, because I fucking love those shows too. And I never really took them to the level of like seeing what the archetypes mean for me at a personal level, but I think that would be really expansive.
Yeah, absolutely. I did a Three Crowns training. It's about just different leadership philosophies and that are clearly stated in the Lion King, because there were three crowns. There's three kings. Simba was a king, Mufasa was a king, Scar was a king, all very different results, all very different phases, and that's what I mean is there's states. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's states that you can flow through. I think Mufasa was obviously a very intentional king, and Scar was a very unintentional king.
Yeah.
He was only looking for power. He had no real plan
Oh.
to expand the kingdom. Mufasa was looking to keep harmony within the kingdom, and he always looked to those who came before him for wisdom. And Simba had the opportunity to take both paths because if you remember, he just couldn't wait to be king. Nobody telling him to do this. Nobody telling him to do that. He had no plan for the kingdom. He just wanted to not be told what to do. That's a lot of what I see on social media as people feel entrepreneurship is working from the beach. Some type of freedom from having a boss telling you what to do. You can make your own schedule. But most people are like a train off the tracks. They're free, but going nowhere because they actually didn't have a structured plan of how they were going to add value in a way that they hadn't seen other people adding value when, they weren't really here to solve a problem. And that's not evil, though. That's just a level of immaturity. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just a level of immaturity. And when you see that, and for his age, that makes a lot of sense. But as you see that progress with him running away from his responsibilities and hanging out with, starting to eat bugs, he got declawed in the jungle, drifting aimlessly, shrinking in stature. I remember there was a part where they were looking at the stars and Timon was like, Pumbaa was like, oh, there's gas, stars are gas burning in billions of miles away. Yeah. And Timon was like, everything's gas, that's stupid. And Simba said something profound, the wisdom that was passed from his father. But his friends laughed at that because they weren't exposed to wisdom. And so he shrunk. He kept shrinking and shrinking and shrinking until he hit that rock bottom that we said were bouncy and ran back to his responsibilities and took his place as the crown.
You know what helped him bounce back, though, that's coming to me really strongly, just relating this to my own life, is Nala coming into his life.
Mm-hmm.
I had Taylor, my queen, my fiance, come into my life, and fuck, that woman will not let me play small at all. Fuck. And that's such a blessing. And I imagine, I haven't seen the movie in a while, but I imagine a big shift in Simba is when Nala comes back into the picture for him.
I have that in there. She literally, she called it out. She called it out of him. For one, you remember first in the beginning of the movie, she pinned him when he was younger. Yep. Pinned him again. when he was,
that's right. That's right. Yeah.
He said he still was like, she wasn't the king, but she saw the king. She only looked at the king. And it was hard for him to hide. And his friends started to look at him differently, like, are you really? And he tried to deny it. But she put the responsibility on, like, no, this is who you are, which led him had a conversation with, running to Rafiki and had that conversation with his father to remember.
Fuck. I'm noticing, I feel shy to share this on the podcast, but I'm going to go for it. I've been having a lot of conflict with my woman lately. And I imagine it's on a really fundamental level. It's because I've also, I mentioned earlier, I found myself in that distraction energy. Mm-hmm. That's me stepping into my king. Even though I've hit a certain level of success and attained certain things, we both know this is not the end for me in any way at all. And in some way, the conflict is a result of me playing in the little boy shit as opposed to stepping into that deeper level of kinghood. And in that way, I imagine so many men don't look at the valuable tool that they have at their disposal when they're in a relationship with a woman to see that when you're in conflict and she's naggy and all these kinds of things, that could be some shit she's in, but it also could just be a result of you not being in your king energy all the way.
Mm-hmm. No, 100%.
I know in my case, that's what's happening.
Same. Even today, because we need to do the site, and it's a lot of the, I need to put the words onto it, but I hate this part. I like to just talk and let it flow. I could do this all day because it's not planned. And so it just requires me to be in a state, like just to be still, and whatever comes out is going to be the right thing. But that requires the more strategic mind, but it needs to be done. And so it's aggravating, but it's like at the same time, probably me, I need her to be that, to be that for me. Like, to say, okay, no, but this is the next step. Channel the energy. I have a lot of energy. She channels it, and if it goes down, she helps me bring it back up. Yeah, so it's in the Bible. A man who finds a wife finds a good thing. And when you look at most successful men, they're married.
Yeah.
Again, but that also it's based off of what is your definition of success. But I look at legacy and impact. Typically, you would need somebody to really like stabilize all that energy.
Yeah. So how does Simba transition from the immature king to the powerful king? Because in the movie, I recall him like fighting with Scar. Do we have to fight with the weak king in order to do that?
Well, they had to skip a lot of parts to keep it short, but so that we would all love that type of 20-minute transformation.
That's what I'm looking for right now, man. Give it to me.
We would all love the 20-minute transformation.
Who do I need to fight? I'll go knock him out right now, and we'll just move on.
Well, we really look at it though. Remember when he said Mufasa's there, and he looked and saw his own reflection. It was a lot of inner work that had to happen. It was just sped up. And then you remember when Mufasa showed up in the clouds, he said, Simba, remember who you are. Simba said, I'm not who I used to be. He kept saying, I'm not who I used to be, because he kept thinking before the accident. That accident really defined him, even though it wasn't his fault.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he didn't put the light of awareness as an adult onto that situation. So that really defined, it's like before and after. But Mufasa said, remember who you are. He never said who you were. It's right now. You are my son right now. And so it was really a letting go of who he was completely and stepping into who he is, not going back and having conversations with his friends. Because you remember his friends, he just said anything high level over eating bugs, and it was a laugh. So he didn't go tell Nala, like, hey, Nala, you know what? You're right, no. He didn't go back, talk to his friends. He immediately took massive action and went back and started to address the things that need to be addressed right then in the moment. And because he led, Nala showed up, Timon showed up, Pumbaa showed up, and he brought them into the kingdom. They were outliers. He brought them into the kingdom. The fight wasn't even really a fight. It was just bringing a light of awareness. Scar was too weak to ever fight. Scar was it's like a dark cloud. A dark cloud can't even hold the weight of a notepad. It'll go right through the darkest cloud. You know what I mean? So once he got out of the shadow of what he thought that he did and let the light just shine through, it wasn't really a fight. The hyenas handled Scar. He didn't even have to do it. They just took care of themselves.
That's right. Yeah, the shadow cannibalized itself, essentially.
Yeah.
Wow. Who knew? I've watched that movie many, many times for especially younger, and I never realized how much deep wisdom, especially for kids growing into adulthood, that it holds. I think sometimes, for me even, I got hung up on Mufasa dying just like Simba did. And I'm sure that was connected to any of the defining moments in my life that kept me trapped in that boy energy where I didn't allow myself to grow and advance beyond because of the pain of that moment. And a lot of the work I've done over the past 4 or 5 years has been unraveling all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious, do you have to unravel all of that in order to step into the truly awakened king, or is there a different path from your perspective?
I don't know, to be honest. Like, I don't know what everyone's path is. I feel like that, to me, it's just a pure you maybe you can, or you can just skip right past to the surrender, and it starts to unravel itself in the seasons that it need be. But I can't say that I've actually, like, I created a devotion journal for everyone who buys our protein and colostrum. Our supplements actually come with some of these personal development tools, but they're really just more to actually bring you to a state of presence, and a knowledge of self. But it's not really, like, I wouldn't say that I do a lot of inner childhood healing things. The background that I come from, everybody's got a ton of trauma. Everybody's got, we're coming from like hectic situations. And so even to look at that would be very difficult to move forward. So for me, that hasn't been my journey. I can't say that that's not a powerful journey, but for me, it has truly been trusting God and using my inner faculties to develop dominion over my physical body to guide my hands. And then now surrendering that mind that has control over the body to God and stepping back. Like, that really is the only thing that's worked, because everything else becomes an ego trip. And it takes so much time until you really realize, like, I went on another useless journey. It took me a year this time. Like, come on.
Yeah, that's the ego trip of the healing journey. I've definitely found myself on that many times. It's really addictive, actually, to go down the path of trying to heal all of our shit, because it's infinite. It never ends. You can keep scratching that deeper and deeper and deeper, and it feels productive. And in some ways it is. I imagine some of that healing journey has led to the conscious awakening that I've had. And I also found, and we don't need to go too deep into this, for me, plant medicine helped fast track that path of surrender. Because, I shared this on the episode that I did Bufo alvarius, which is a toad venom that has DMT as the active ingredient in it. And there was no choice but to surrender. It just kicked my ass so fucking hard that it, like, you can't in the face of the divine just, like, keep resisting it. Just, but another experience that we talked about that I was going to potentially go into here on the podcast with you, that has created that for me many times many times in the experience, I've only been twice, is Burning Man, actually. And Burning Man is such an incredible experience of surrender, because you're going off into this extremely harsh environment. This desert is not like any other desert. It's not sand that they host this festival on, it's dust. And the dust is so fine, it gets into everything. There's just no way to protect yourself from the dust. And it's always blowing and all that kind of stuff. And it's also, the dust is extremely alkaline. And so it actually, like, my cuticles on my fingers were, like, tearing off, like, extremely painful. Your eyes, your feet, you get this thing called playa foot. So, like, on Instagram, Burning Man looks like a festival, where people are just coming and, having a great time and doing Molly and LSD and dancing to Diplo. And there is that. Yeah. But the real burners, the people who are there for the setup, the teardown of it, that are there for the full week, that aren't just coming for the photo opportunity, it's fucking brutal, like, in the best way. Yeah. But you have to, like, cart all your water in, you have to, all your food, all of that stuff, and the dust causes so many things to break, whether it's your car that you traveled in on, or, like, if you take your car to Burning Man, your car is guaranteed ruined. Like, it will have dust for the rest of it. It's true. People don't even believe that. And then they take it, and then you can't ever get it out. And, like, if you rent someone's RV even, which is something that we do every year, they charge like 3 or 4 times the rental rate. Some of them won't let you take them to Burning Man because they know it's going to ruin the RV. Like, it just will. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, we were talking about it and how we talked about it prior to this podcast, and one of the concepts of it is like, it in itself is a psychedelic experience.
Mhm.
And because of that, unless you go, you can never know what Burning Man's like. It's the same as if I were to try to explain to you what a mushroom journey is like without you ever having taken mushrooms. It's like, I can tell you and you're like, okay, I can maybe like imagine or conceptualize that in some variation, but it's such a visceral experience. There's no way. So I don't know if that's a topic we want to open up, but I'm here for it if you do.
I would love to hear about your experiences. I think you were going to tell me something about an experience you had at Burning Man, but we ran out of time before. And and then two, it's Olivia and I, my wife, we talk about that all the time because like that, what you just said is life, right? Like there's the photo op of Burning Man, right? There's the what people imagine it'd be like. And then there's the actual experience of it, which this is tough and it does this and that, but also it is also very beautiful. It's like, it's everything. And that's what you know, we go through hikes. We've hiked all over America with our children. We just strap them on us and hike, and people and when we take photos and post them on Instagram, we try to be as real as possible, but it's just impossible to actually state what's happening, especially without complaining. But people are like, oh man, your family's so beautiful. Like, that's incredible. We would love to do that. But it's like, anybody could do it. You just have to do it. And the reality of it is like, this is a photo and it's a beautiful photo. And when we hiked to the top of the highest peak in Ohio before, Black Raven Rock. You know, it used to be a Native American lookout. It's incredible views over Ohio River into Kentucky. It's a great photo. The reality is it was very hot. It was straight up, you know, with 1-year-old, 2-year-old, you know what I mean? Like little kids. There were many bugs. It was like a lot of complaining, ran out of water, my ankles, and then there was a drive back and the wetness. It's everything. It was all of those things, everything. And that's what we live in. I always remind ourselves, even building a business with the family, it's like, it's everything. So if we're really feeling just the part that you can complain about, then that's just us not looking at the other aspect, because they're both present equally at the same time. It's just, where do we choose to put our awareness at? So I love what you said there, because like that's our saving grace, because it is so much. It's like, if we start to feel bogged down, we're it's our awareness that's the problem. It's not the situation. It's what we're looking at.
Yeah, that's my favorite part of the burn, is that it's a fucking nightmare, and it's actually they call it getting your burn, and getting your burn is when you finally surrender into the hell, and as you do, you immediately get held by it. Like immediately you're caught. Yeah. And it starts to become this experience of being held in the hell. And then there's a deeper level of community. There's a deep, like, that's where the real magic of Burning Man comes in, is once you relax into that, everybody, you start to realize everyone's doing that there. Everyone's in the hell of it. And that's what's happening in life all the time. With every single person on the planet. It's just the timeline is stretched out, whereas Burning Man, the timeline is condensed really, really tightly. And so it's much more obvious. But for me, it's just a reminder of like, Burning Man is just life condensed down into a very compact moment. And even being there, you experience that. There's like a time warp that happens at Burning Man where, at least for me and many of the others I've talked to about this, it feels like 5 years pass over the course of 1 week. Wow. And it literally feels like I went through an entire relationship from start to finish my first burn. I met a woman, we had the entire relationship cycle, and it felt like we had been together for 10 years and we were together for 6 days. Wow. Which is crazy. It's crazy. And so I can like tell it to you, or I can tell it to the listener, and unless you've been there and experienced it, there's no way anybody can relate to that. Yeah. You're like, okay, like, yeah, maybe like I can conceptualize that, but for whatever reason in the moment, that's just how it worked. And
I have times of slipping out of time. We call this a parenthesis. Like what we're experiencing now is just a parenthesis in eternity. Time is a parenthesis in eternity, a tiny break. So I can imagine if you were out of time, like you lose, the structure breaks down.
yeah,
That would actually like mark today from tomorrow, hour from hour. It's just it's just pure usness, which is incredible.
Well, and that happens there because there's always stuff going on 24/7. It never stops. It's full sensory overload from start to finish. No breath, no fucking breath whatsoever. Even when you're trying to sleep in your camper, it's sensory overload because it's fucking hot as hell and it is dusty and there's so much noise and you have to wear earplugs and there's generators running everywhere. And it's like, you're often sharing, like with me, I stayed in an RV, which is the bougie way to do the burn. A tent is the OG legit way to do it.
Yeah.
And like, I'm so glad I didn't do a tent. But in the RV, you're sharing it with other people and they're on different time schedules too. Like my friends liked to party at night. I like to sleep at night at the burn. I do the burn for I found that the more sober, like I do complete sober burn. And for me, it's really intense. I actually found, I did LSD one time on the burn this go around, and it actually numbed my experience down. I actually have a more intense burn being stone sober. And I do the burn where it's like I go to bed at a reasonable hour, wake up at a reasonable time, and go out during the day and see what kind of human experiences I have with other people. And I've had some really wild ones. And let me see if I've got one that comes to mind right now. I went out with my best friend who went to the burn with me this year, and we wanted to go get ice for our camp. And he had what's called an art car, which is a golf cart that he dressed up to be super creative. It had all these lights and everything and music and stuff, and he could drive it around on the playa. And we went with the art car to go get ice, and it was an electric art car, and due to the dust and everything, it broke down as we were halfway there, and it broke down right in front of Burning Man Radio, which there's a radio station in Burning Man that is broadcasting. Anybody can listen to it all over the world. They're broadcasting weird ass music and just stuff that's happening on the burn, weather forecasts, all that stuff. We broke down right in front of it, and he's like, well, God must have broken us down here for a reason. Let's go in. And we walk into the radio station, and he walks right up. He's like, we're here for our interview. And the DJ is in there. He's like, what are you talking about? And we're like, we're here. It's time to go. And the DJ was like, I still have 10 minutes on my set. And so it was like, that's okay. We're here right now. And he sat down and put on the headphones, and I put on the headphones, and the guy's like, okay. And he just flipped us on and put us on the air, and we started talking about God, and it was fucking amazing. It was just radical shit. At the burn, you can just do whatever you want, whatever the fuck you want. People die. 3 people died this year.
Oh, wow.
Every
really?
year people die. Yeah. Every year people die. I think I saw one of the people who died. There was this woman that was she was more than just dehydrated. She was fucked up. She was naked on an e-bike, and it was the middle of the day, blazing sun, and she's just wobbling, and she fell down in the ground and was just twitching in the dust, just completely gone.
Oh, wow.
And I don't have any medical training at all, so it wasn't my place to help her, but there were 5 or 6 people who immediately came over, and people band together and try to help each other out. She looked radically fucked. She looked like she had done way too many drugs and had been hyper dehydrated for a long time. I don't know if she made it or not. I have no idea. But it's wild to see. And then of course you see people who are taking care of themselves and having the very best time of their entire lives.
Big spectrum.
And yeah. And it's people come, some of it is and this is probably, we could relate this back to the beginning of this podcast to talk about the pressure. There's still a know your limits when you're under pressure, because at the burn, yes, surrender in, but also listen to your body, listen to what's going on. Don't do a lot of things that will take you out of knowing how your body's going to react.
Yeah.
You don't have to do fucking 8 tabs of LSD just because it's presented to you.
Story.
You know, like if you want to have that experience, try one, see how your body handles it, see how you feel in the desert heat. And then you can do 8 the next day or something, you know, whatever. The point is, like, that's the way it is in life too, though. Like when we become disconnected with our body, with our intuition, with all of that, it's unsafe to lean in on the pressure. Like this is a realization I'm remembering, or it's a remembering I'm having right now, is like, I can navigate extreme pressure when I'm present and connected to my physical body.
Yeah.
The end. Like it's like, that's the vehicle that allows me to do that. And it's just knowing where I can stretch beyond my edges. And it's a dance, because sometimes, like you said in the gym, you got to push beyond that edge till you're puking, and you got to just go there to know where it's at. But there's also like going and trying to bench press 400 pounds on your first time ever lifting the bar, and it crushes you. You know, like there is a healthy balance on how and where to push your edges. And I think that would be a really interesting place to dig into next with you, is like, how do you know how far past your edge to go?
I'm the worst person for that. Cause I don't know until I go. I was acting, it's so funny. My wife, we walk every day at least 10,000 steps together and just talk. And that was a realization, is like, we always bite off more than we can chew. We always do. It always, because I don't know what I can't do. Like, I literally don't know what I can't do. It all seems extremely possible and immediate to me. Like, the filter is broken. But we took a few more steps, and there was realization that, wait a minute, we always chew what we bite off, though. So we always bite off more than we can chew, and it takes a little bit of time it takes more time than we thought. But like, our jaw capacity is actually just expanding. We've never actually not chewed it. So it's just that thing. And I find that the things that, like, I don't actually have a desire to, like, 500 pounds will be an insane number of bench pressing me. I actually don't even have the desire to try that, though. You know what I mean? Like, I don't. So it's the things that I feel like that I'm drawn to that are expansive. When I get there, I couldn't do it all the time, every time. But I always grow into the person that can do it, because I'll just keep chewing on it until it's digested. Yes.
So it's really like, trust the desire. If you have the desire to do 8 tabs of LSD at Burning Man, okay, go for it. But if you don't have that desire, and you're just allowing yourself to betray yourself or self-abandon, or you're just not even connected at all, that's a different game.
Yeah, that makes so much sense to me, because it's like, if you were the person, like, you would be like, I'm that type of person. I'm obsessive, and I know that about myself. And because I know that about myself, I don't put myself in situations where I wouldn't, you know what I mean? Like, you gotta really know where. Yeah, that's like, the thing. I've not done certain things because I know that I would go all the way, and all the way could end up being death. So it's just like, let me not even get into the environment of that, because not only does it not, if I look at the end of this, it's not success to me. And so let me not even start on a little bit. I'm not even have a piece of it, because where are we going with this? It is a lot of presence required.
So I love where we're going with this. And the update for me is, when we have an authentic desire, it's like there's safety to go all the way. Or do you know what I mean? Like, if like you said, you don't authentically desire to bench 500 pounds right now. So it's like, you're not going to go try that.
No.
I don't have an authentic desire to get super fucked up at the burn. So I'm not going to actually go down that path. Mm-hmm. I don't have that desire. I have the desire to have a great time. And so I can trust whatever is presented to me. Then if I surrender into it, will align with that desire.
Yeah.
That's a deep level of surrender.
Yeah. I believe that 100%.
It's like surrendering to our authentic desire. So then the name of the game is getting connected with our authentic desire, because oftentimes, like we said, society puts, like, we've been raised to believe what success is because we haven't found the definition of success for ourselves. So how can somebody, man or woman, find their definition of success for themselves?
So, and that's literally what the whole, like my supplement company, that's what actually it's for. It's so funny you said, so it's authentic. It's Live Authentic is the name of the company. So I have two businesses. Well, one is Authentic Consulting. I typically do B2B business consulting or executive coaching. And then there's Live Authentic, which is the supplement company. And it starts with Authentic Devotion, which is the protein, colostrum, as far as the product. But that's like the foundation is your devotion. So the actual physical supplement, which is this, is what you get in the mail. But then online, there's the mental supplement that you tune into, which is 3 phases. We start with know thyself to lead thyself. And then we go into the process of finding what your devotion is. Or typically start with what I call a dream fast. Fast from this dream. The world is a dream. This is literally all somebody else's. We're literally on tools that was somebody else's dream. We're sitting in homes that we did not build. They came from the minds of somebody. So we're fasting from social media, TV, music, like all outside forces, a lot of different foods, and really just getting silent. And those first few days, it's going to be like the first time you try to meditate. It's like an ape in a small cage. But suddenly there's a subtle shift. You go from I'm hungry, I'm starving, I hate a diet, to hunger is present, right? You got your awareness. Like you can be present with the hunger or you can be present with yourself. Once you get that space, it's a lot. It's almost like if you have, you know how like you outgrow friendships at some point, relationships, and it's you feel it, but it's hard to tell until you develop a true authentic friendship. And now you have that contrast. So you need that contrast. A lot of people in the beginning to see what I was told societally or family, whatever the case may be, that I should be doing or I should be pursuing, versus what is actually like I'm drawn to, I'm excited about. What are my natural desires? If I were to just be still, if I had, nothing to distract me, what would I intentionally create? What does my mind do? And then from there, we start to write down root goals, because everybody wants the fruit, but we got to start with the root. And so we start to look at different things as far as what do we want the relationships in our life to look like? Your spiritual practices, different things that are like foundational for everything to come out. And it's a real process, and we have the time, but typically we got to watch another episode of Seinfeld. We got to do this. We got to do that. It's like we're just so distracted, and that's why you have to start with the dream fast or hit rock bottom, whichever one works for you. You can be intentional, or you can hit rock bottom and then lose everything. And because you have nothing, you have a real opportunity. You can't lose at that point, and so you're not giving up anything. And that's another fast track to get there. The painful process works just as well as the other one. It's really our choice as to which path we take. And then you start to look at, okay, where are the tools and skills and people that I need to be with? People is a big thing. Community is everything. That I need to surround myself with to actually, because a lot of stuff, it's like, for example, I don't want to lift 500 pounds but on bench press, but if I did have that desire, I wouldn't go to the gym that I go to now. I would never try to accomplish that goal by myself. I wouldn't go to a bodybuilding gym. I would go to a powerlifting gym. Yeah. And surround myself in the culture of powerlifting to the point that what I'm lifting is like, it doesn't fit. I have to grow in order. If you're walking with somebody, only two things can happen. They have to slow down to your pace so you can talk, or you have to speed up to their pace of walk so that you can keep the conversation going. So you want to get around people that are already having that conversation so that you can be in that uncomfortable state we move through those states of unconscious incompetence or like, oh yeah, I can do that. And then we get around people who really do that. And now we have that heart aching feeling of conscious incompetence. I'm conscious that I'm not the person that I thought it was, or it's not as easy as it's going to be. But you need to be surrounded by people like that so that you can move through the state of conscious competence until eventually it's unconscious competence. So the people you surround yourself with are important. That's why we created the community, surrounding yourself with the devoted. Yeah. The next product is actually called Desire, by the way, Authentic Desire.
Ooh,
because that's the fuel. Because other than that, you really have no reason. It's our desires that like drive us. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The person with no desire is this person who's done nothing. Even somebody that has what will be deemed as a unhealthy desire at least has a desire. Mm-hmm. Without desire, you're basically dead.
Yeah. Cut off from eros, life force.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love everything you're saying. It's bringing up another burn story, which was one of the things I love about the burn is that there is no cell service. Like they're trying to put that up. They're trying to put Wi-Fi up. I hope they're not successful in it. But so I go 9 days without any connection to my phone. It's like the greatest detox from that. And quite often I'll do a 24-hour detox from my phone. Like no 24 hours, nothing on the phone whatsoever. I highly recommend that to the listener. I was doing it. At one point I was trying to do it once a week where it was like a Sabbath thing. Like every Sunday I was doing a detox. It's tough. It's tough. But even 24 hours is extremely beneficial. But at the burn, it was 9 days. And I got to a place there where it was like day 6. And I was going out in this place called Deep Playa, which is beyond all of the RVs. It's set up like a clock. And the top half of the clock is empty. There's just artwork. So the man is at the middle of the clock, the man that they burn. And then there's a bunch of artwork way out in the upper area of the clock that is called Deep Playa. It takes a lot of time to like write out there, but the artwork installations are really incredible. And at one point, late at night on my first burn, I was trying to figure out what my purpose in life is. I had gone there with some of my intention to see what is the thing I'm willing to die for? What's the thing that like is going to drive me? Because I think it's this men's work, but I'm not sure. And I ended up at an artwork installation, and there was a couple there, and we just started talking, and the guy started sharing with me some of the challenges he was having in life. And I just asked him question after question and was like seeing him really authentically, just with pure love. And he started crying, and I'm like, yeah. And I put my arm around him, like, let it out. And he's like, I've never cried with a man before. And like, I just held him, and he like sobbed on my shoulder. And it was really amazing. His wife started crying, and she was like, he's needed this for so long. And he just was like, the emotional release for him was so supportive that it like made his whole entire burn. And for me, getting to gift that was incredible. So I went from that piece of artwork and then rode on my bike about 5 minutes to the next artwork and got there. And there was another guy there that I held space for and had this emotional release. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like a thing. So then I went to the next artwork and there was nobody there. And I'm like, okay, no one's here. So I sat down at the artwork and waited. And within 3 minutes, a fucking guy showed up and I held space for him and his friend. And it was this like, I was feeling this deep amount of joy and fulfillment from this experience of just going from artwork to artwork, waiting, seeing what dude was going to show up. And I hold space for whatever dude was there. And I got to such a level of joy with it that I laid down on the desert and looked up at the stars and just started crying with joy, thanking God for that opportunity of just being able to do that. And the purity of that expression, just like immediately it set in. I'm like, oh, there's my thing. There's my thing. And I believe that some of it came from that digital detox. Like I was away from all of the messaging, because one of the beautiful things about the burn is you get to see who you really are if you allow yourself. You show up and allow yourself to flow, and you'll find out a lot about yourself. Like my first burn, I had no idea what I was going to get into. I thought I was going to be doing like Like I started out doing all the arts and crafts things and woodworking and that kind of thing. And by the end, I was doing like every BDSM camp there was. I had no idea. Like I'm doing shibari and like all this stuff. And I did not know that was authentic to me. I'd never really experienced that. And it was amazing. I was like, oh, okay. I like this. This is authentic to me. Yeah, so I'm like holding space for men's emotions and doing shibari rope work. It was like my first burn. And, second burn, entirely different experience. But I am curious what comes up for you in hearing all of that.
One, what is shibari?
Shibari is that where you tie it's like a bondage thing where you tie, like in my case, I was tying a woman with these intricate knots. Like you wrap them in ropes. Hi, this is not quite the time to be talking about shibari.
You can't hear anything. I'm on a podcast, son.
He's welcome to say hi. Yeah. I just might pause the conversation. I feel a little shame. Hi.
Or you want to say hi?
Hi.
Hi. It's nice to meet you.
All right. Somebody come get Adonis. All right. Go ahead, son.
Adonis. That's a badass name.
Yeah. He's okay. He's a powerful being for sure. Yeah.
I bet.
Okay.
He can't hear what I'm saying, right?
No.
Okay,
you're my earphones.
Good.
No, tell me what you're saying about your work.
Well, have you ever seen like the beautiful rope work where like a woman's like tied up and it's got the knots and everything, and usually it's like tied in a particular way. It's a form of what do they call that? Well, bondage. It's like as in like they're a woman. In my case, a woman is tied where she can't move. It's a surrender. It's a form of surrender, like sub dom kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's in the kink field, and the art of it is in how you tie the person up, as well as the knots themselves. There's like learning how to tie the rope in a particular way is an art form, and then you can do it in a way that's very erotic. Wow. And so it's for the right person, it's very exciting. And so I found myself in that crowd when I was at my first burn, and it was really
it seems like everything goes down at
everything.
At Burning Man.
Dude, there's a place called the Orgy Dome.
Really?
Yes. And it's as fucked up as you can imagine. I did not go to the Orgy Dome. I had other random experiences, but no, that's a whole different level of burn when you're going and having orgies with strangers in the desert in the hot sun after everyone's been using porta potties for
I was gonna say everything you explained. I couldn't imagine that's got the best.
Yeah, no showers and everything. Yeah, the Orgy Dome
that's
is that's not for me.
I love what you're saying about 9 days boneless, and then being able to really ask that question and being able to receive and being clear. Because sometimes we ask questions and we receive the answer, but our mind is so full we're not even aware, because we always receive the answer to a question, and it says that ask and you shall receive. That's a principle. That's a law. So if we have not received, it's in a lack of awareness, not a lack of an answer. And so I just love that level of clarity. And being able to really experience that. Also, people being able to, like, you're sharing this story, but there's also, guys walking around who are also sharing this story that you might not ever reconnect with again. And I just love the ripple effect of things. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
Amen. Well, I would love to let the listener know a little bit more about what you're working on and how they can get in touch with you and what they can get from you if a listener interacts with you.
I mainly do B2B consulting, and I work with Inc. 500 organizations, Inc. 5,000 organizations too. The size actually isn't really what matters. I like to work with conscious companies, expand the ability to, typically for their sales teams or their top profit centers, to be able to continue to perform under pressure. When typically companies call me when they see a CEO or a top salesperson's numbers start to slump, and it's probably something personal going on, or maybe there's some conflict, or it's just something that's not allowing them to be themselves, because a top performer isn't a top performer for the money. There's just a top performer. And so it's almost like a knot on a hose that's tied up, and it's some type of emotional imbalance or some type of not understanding, of you're maybe not have this level of awareness to understand what's going on and be able to work their way through it. I love to support people in their winter time. Like I like that's my favorite time to work with somebody because I feel like that's the most honest time. And I also do some what we call B2C coaching, but it's very selective. It has to be energy, you know what I mean? Because it's this type of work, as you do this type of work, it's all energetic. It's a pouring out, but it's also pouring in.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so I don't too much market that, but I'm always open to supporting someone and being supported in a way that adds value to my life. Because I'm working home from more my family. And so the energy that comes back is also going to be what goes through our entire house. So very personal work. Now, we created this to be able to work with the masses. I started even as a junior in high school. I was a strength conditioning coach for my high school teams. And so fitness has always been something. Nutrition has always been something. We built large communities all across the world, explaining organic nutrition, how people actually had access to it. And so we finally created our own company that is a blend of both the personal development that we teach to organizations as well as the supplements and movement and nutrition aspect. We call them the vital life practices: movement, personal development, mindfulness, and nutrition. So, what we have coming up is a 90-day transformation. It's a devotion challenge. You have your devotion once or twice a day, which is your protein, colostrum, your trace minerals, your antioxidants, your digestive enzymes. So physically, you will definitely be nourishing yourself. And I source the highest quality ingredients from Ireland and Norway and, where's the cacao from? The cacao's from Peru, fair trade, right? But then we also have this devotion card that you write down. What is your devotion? So every time you drink it, you're infusing your mind and body with your devotion, because we know we become what we think about. That's for sure. And so that's pretty much what we're working on right now, is really supporting people at a transformational level. This is a luxury product because your devotion is a luxury. Your devotion is not it's not your burden, even though there are seasons where it feels like it, because it calls you to do the thing when you want to relax. Like we said,
Amen.
You don't necessarily want to God, like, man, I keep getting called to do this thing and expand, while I'm like, man, I've made it. I want to relax a little bit, and it could feel like a burden, but no, your devotion is a luxury. It is a luxury. And so we have to change our perception around that. That's what a miracle is. A miracle is not a shift in outer, it's a shift in perception. And so, man, that's what we're working on right now.
Amen. How can the listener find you? I'll put the link in the bio. Brandon Odoshin. Instagram, your website?
Yeah, Instagram, Brandon Odoshin. We're finishing the website right now. Maybe it'll be done by the time this comes out. It's just authentic, AUTHENTIK.com.
All right. I'll put the link in bio for this episode. Brandon, it's been fantastic. Really a pleasure to get to meet you and get to know you, and excited for us to do another one, because we got way more I know that we could dig into on this. So
we can go a bunch of ways.
Thank you, brother, for coming on.
It's been a pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
You bet. And to the listener, thank you. And we'll see you on another episode of the Hard for Life podcast. Have a great day.